When we think about substance use in general, and when we think about marijuana use in particular, you'll see effects throughout the body. So you can see effects on the brain, its development. You can see effects on the heart rate, on the lungs, on breathing, on the muscles. When I work with students, when I work with learners, I'm constantly telling them, give me a body system and I will tell you how substance use affects it.
Whenever we think about their brain, it decreases their ability to problem solve, decreases attention span, and impairs their ability to concentrate. So this really affects them whenever it comes to school performance. They're not going to be able to pay attention, they're not going to be able to do well on a test, and they're not going to be able to retain what it is that they're learning.
When we talk about adolescence and we talk about developing bodies and we talk about growing children, we want to be very mindful that these types of substances can have long-term changes and effects on the brain and the physical body's development.
Adolescent brains are in a very special spot where they're fine-tuning how their brain is going to be wired when they're adults. Their prefrontal cortex is still developing, and other areas of their brain are doing what we call pruning. When adolescents use marijuana regularly, it acts on receptors in the brain. So that affects how the brain responds to certain stimuli. It affects how it releases neurotransmitters, and it affects how the brain is pruned. Because their brains are developing long-term, marijuana will affect that development and can alter the way that they think, that they process events in their life, and it can affect their mood and personality.
When we're talking about the developing adolescent brain, what we'll see is we will see that the brain structures can actually change based on what exposures that brain has in childhood. So when we look at substance use, what happens is if somebody uses something like marijuana, it causes a big release of a chemical called dopamine. And what dopamine does is it says, that felt good, we should do it again. And it causes a release of endorphins. Endorphins are what we commonly call the runner's high. Endorphins are actually the body's naturally occurring opioids, so they make you feel good. Things that go into and out of the brain relatively quickly are the things that make you feel better faster.
The biggest thing is the impact on reward reinforcement. If they are using that on a regular basis, whether they are feeling normal, whether they're feeling stressed, whether they're going through loss or disappointment, we know that that has a very strong emotional pull to it. And if you do it on a regular basis, it's a reinforcement and it's a pattern that people begin to get into. And before too long, their brain is saying, this is the solution for when I'm bored, for when I'm disappointed, for when I'm frustrated, and for when I want to feel happy.
So when we look at vaping, what's really unique about vaping is actually the way it comes into the body. So when somebody vapes something, what they're taking is they're taking a liquid that has some sort of chemical in it, whether it's nicotine or THC, and vaporizing it through heat, and then inhaling it and exhaling the excess vapor.
We know that when you vape, it allows you to be exposed to a higher concentration of the substance faster, which means that you're getting a stronger high quicker. And any time that you are exposed to a substance that's hits you harder, faster, it is way more likely that you're going to become dependent and have a hard time quitting it. Any smoke inhalation, being marijuana, tobacco, or vaping, will worsen asthma and it will worsen respiratory diseases. Even though vaping is, construed as safer than smoking a traditional cigarette, there are still chemicals in that aerosol, and it is still harmful to your lungs.
So when we think about children who have asthma or other respiratory illnesses, a lot of those can be made worse or can be precipitated by smoking around them or by themselves. It diminishes the body's natural defenses to keep the lungs and the nose and the oral mucosa of the mouth clean and filtered out from things like viruses and other particles.